What if the greatest threat to global peace isn't rogue actors or extremists, but the cold calculation of two superpowers on a collision course? Let me ask you a simple question. Do you believe China and the United States could ever go to war, even a nuclear one? I'm guessing many of you would instinctively say no, because it seems incomprehensible. In an age of interdependence, mutual nuclear destruction, and rational leadership, how could two nations risk everything? And yet, just over a century ago, the people of Europe thought the exact same thing. They had seen war before, understood its horrors, and still believed rational leaders would prevent any large-scale conflict. But not only did one world war happen, two did. Back to back, each worse than the last. So ask yourself, were people back then just naive? Were they less informed than we are today? Or is there a deeper force at play, one that history has shown is stronger than logic, morality, or fear? This video is about that force, and how it could determine whether the world's two major powers are heading toward an inevitable clash. In this episode of Enoch Report, we'll dive deep into the idea of the Thucydides Trap and unravel how China's rise and America's relative decline have created a structural imbalance with chilling implications. We'll look at 5 critical domains where the balance of power is shifting: the economy, finance, technology, military capabilities, and international influence. Because if we've learned anything from history, it's that power doesn't transfer peacefully, unless both sides choose to act differently. And that choice starts with clarity. So here's what I want to know. Do you truly believe war between China and the US can be avoided? Yes or no? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Now let's get into it. Let's go back to ancient Greece. Around the 5th century BC, a war broke out between Athens and Sparta, known as the Peloponnesian War. A historian named Thucydides captured a timeless truth. When a rising power threatens to displace an existing one, war is often the natural result. This is what's now referred to as the Thucydides Trap. In the last 500 years, there have been 16 notable instances where an emerging power challenged a dominant one. Do you know how many of those ended in war? 12. Only for avoided direct conflict. And those required massive political sacrifice and strategic recalibration from both sides. Today, some scholars argue that we are watching this dynamic unfold again. But this time, it's not between city-states. It's between the world's 2 largest economies, the United States and the People's Republic of China. The question is, are we headed down the same path once again? The first arena where we see this shift is the economy. Over the last 2 decades, China's economic growth has been nothing short of historic. In the year 2000, China's GDP sat at around $1.2 trillion. By 2021, that number had surged to $17.7 trillion, over a 10-fold increase. Back in the post-World War II era, the U.S. economy made up nearly half of global GDP. Fast forward to today, and that share has shrunk to roughly 1/7. Based on purchasing power parity, considered by many economists to be a better long-term measure, China's economy is already about 1.2 times the size of the U.S., if current trajectories hold. By 2030, China could be twice as large economically. In global trade, China has overtaken the United States as the top trading partner for most of the world's leading economies. And in terms of corporate presence, in 2000, only 10 Chinese companies were on the Fortune Global 500 list. By 2020, that number exploded to 124, surpassing the US, which had 121 that year. Now, to be fair, China's economy is slowing. It's grappling with demographic declines, environmental strain, and rising debt. But experts like Graham Allison urge us not to discount China's problem-solving ability. Despite facing crisis after crisis for decades, China has repeatedly proved more resilient than its critics expected, often adapting faster than Western institutions thought possible. And amid these challenges, it still holds a crucial role in global supply chains. Even as talk of economic decoupling grows in certain Western capitals, the world's reliance on Chinese manufacturing continues to deepen. Let's turn to finance. One of America's strongest pillars of global dominance is its control of the global financial system. Anchored by the US dollar, the dollar continues to be the world's leading reserve currency, and that dominance isn't going away anytime soon. However, China is quietly building pressure points of its own. While the yuan isn't yet freely convertible, and capital controls limit its international use, Beijing is taking the lead in digital currency innovation. China's central bank digital currency ambitions signal a potential challenge to the dollar. Not head-on, but from the flanks, using tech-led innovation rather than traditional monetary policy. At the consumer level, China's mobile payment adoption far outpaces the US by 2018. Chinese citizens had spent more than $19 trillion via mobile payments, compared to less than $1 trillion in the US. That's a staggering 50-to-1 gap in per capita usage. More than 900 million people in China use WeChat Pay, which, unlike Apple Pay in the US, serves as an all-in-one platform for messaging, payments, ride-hailing, food ordering, and even investments. The data collected from such widespread use has created one of the richest consumer behavior datasets on Earth, a goldmine for fintech innovation. In today's world, technological supremacy often defines geopolitical leverage, and here, competition has never been fiercer. Schmidt refers to China as a full-spectrum peer competitor in AI. China's artificial intelligence sector has grown rapidly, with Chinese firms like Tencent, Alibaba, and Baidu standing among the global AI giants. What is China's edge? Scale and data. With over 1.4 billion people, China generates and processes more high-quality data than any other nation, and in the digital age, data is the new oil. Every year, China graduates 4 times more students in STEM fields than the US, and 3 times more computer engineers. In semiconductors, the numbers are just as telling. China now produces over 15% of the world's chips, while the US share has fallen from 37% in the 1990s to just 12%. Over the last 30 years, China has built over 30 large-scale semiconductor fabrication plants. The US, 0. China is also surging ahead in 5G infrastructure. By the end of 2020, it had over 1.5 million 5G base stations and over 150 million 5G users. The US lagged far behind, with only 60 million users and 50,000 towers. Whoever leads in 5G will also dominate in related tech frontiers: autonomous driving, military tech, virtual reality, and beyond. If you're still with us, you're clearly not here for surface-level takes. Make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell. At Enoch Report, we dig deeper than the headlines, bringing you geopolitical insights that matter to your future. Now, on to perhaps the most dangerous arena: military power. By traditional metrics, the United States still holds global military supremacy, but the margin is shrinking fast. According to comparisons, China's defense budget has grown from just 1/30th of the US level in the 1990s to about 1/4 today, and when measured via purchasing power parity, that is, accounting for how many weapons or services $1 actually buys, China's defense budget equals around 53% of America's. Why does that matter? Because China concentrates almost all of its military resources in East Asia, specifically the Taiwan Strait and the South China Sea, whereas America must cover over 750 overseas military bases worldwide. Also, China operates on a dramatically lower cost structure. A Chinese soldier costs roughly $28,000 per year. An American, nearly $100,000. China's investment in quantum computing could offer breakthroughs in submarine detection, encrypted communication, and radar systems. Their Beidou navigation system is positioning itself as an alternative to us run GPS, with over 120 surveillance satellites already in orbit, second only to the US, and let's not forget space. In 2021, China launched the core module of its space station after just 20 years of development, something the US took over 40 years to do. Despite China's remarkable growth, its global image has struggled. Today, China runs the largest diplomatic network in the world, second only to the US in terms of embassy presence and mission coverage. But according to a detailed study from the Pew Research Center, most developed nations have increasingly negative views of China. In countries like Australia, 81%, the UK 74%, and Japan 86%. Perceptions of China are at all-time lows. Meanwhile, America's image, especially since President Biden took office, has improved significantly in global opinion polls. The Soft Power 30 Index gives the U.S. a score of 77.8, ranking 5th globally. China came in near the bottom, the score of 51.85. Beijing knows that if it wants to lead globally, it can't rely on hard power alone. It must figure out how to build trust and appeal, and that's one of its steepest challenges. With friction building in every area, we have to ask, can we still avoid a direct clash? Graham Allison, the scholar who revived interest in the Thucydides Trap, believes we can, but only if both nations take urgent, deliberate steps. Therefore, first, both sides must abandon overconfidence. Neither should presume they can control escalation once conflict begins. Recognizing the trap itself is the first step toward avoiding it. Second, strategic scenario planning, especially around Taiwan, must become front and center. If China moves militarily, how does the U.S. respond? What are the consequences of miscalculation? Don't forget, no one expected the Korean War to drag both countries into conflict, and yet it did. Third, history offers models. The Song and Liao dynasties were bitter rivals, but found coexistence. A century of uneasy peace through economic interdependence. Fourth, shift the focus to common threats. Climate change, nuclear proliferation, pandemics, terrorism. These are global risks no single superpower can solve alone. Shared danger could be the foundation for shared strategy. I want to hear your thoughts. Is this rivalry destined to spiral into conflict? Or can we create an exception to history? Yes or no? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. What we choose to do with this moment matters, not just for policy, but for peace. If this video brought you insight, don't just subscribe and hit the bell. Because at Enoch Report, we don't just follow trends, we show you where they're heading. And sometimes, that insight can change everything. We'll see you next time.